Good evening, boys and girls. Are you ready for bed? Are you ready for a bedtime story? Well, this is another treat, especially for those who like John Burningham like me. Oh my word, he's such an amazing illustrator and storyteller. Tonight, we've got another combination. I had the idea to put some stories together for those who want to listen a bit longer. You don't have to be going to bed to listen to these stories. And so, we've got Where's Julius? Aslo? Would You Rather? Harquin? The Magic Bed? And, if you're not asleep by then, we have got Hushabye. This episode is dedicated to my fans in Sweden, where I was number 1, and now I think I'm number 2. Hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend who's sleeping alone. Hope you enjoy. Let's go. Once upon a time. Good evening, my little builders. Are you ready for bed? Are you ready for a bedtime story? Tonight's story is called Where's Julius? By John Burningham. As you listen, try and remember all the reasons that Julius gave to his parents for not being able to eat with them. Once upon a time. For breakfast, said Mrs. Troutbeck, we have scrambled eggs with mushrooms, cornflakes, and some orange juice, which I have unfrozen. Where's Julius? Mr. Troutbeck called the son Julius, and they all sat down for breakfast. For lunch today, we are having sardines on toast, a roll and butter, tomatoes, and nothing for pudding. Where's Julius? Julius says he cannot have lunch with us today because he's made a little home in the other room with 3 chairs, the old curtain, and a broom. So Mr. Troutbeck took the tray with the sardines on toast, a roll and butter, and tomatoes, and no pudding, to the other room, where Julius had made his little home out of 3 chairs, the old curtains, and the broom. I've got the lamb casserole for supper out of the oven, and the potatoes in their jackets, and broccoli with butter on top, and for afterwards there's roly-poly pudding. Where's Julius? Julius says he cannot have supper with us just at the moment because he's digging a hole in order to get to the other side of the world. So Mr. Troutbeck took the lamb casserole, the potatoes in their jackets, and broccoli with butter on top, and the roly-poly pudding for afterwards, to where Julius was digging his hole. For breakfast, there's sausage, bacon, eggs, toast, and marmalade, and also a glass of 3-flavoured juice. Where's Julius? Julius says he can't have breakfast with us today because he's riding a camel to the top of the tomb of Nefertatum, which is a pyramid near the Nile of Egypt. So Mr. Troutbeck took the tray with the sausage, bacon and egg, toast and marmalade, and the glass of the 3-flavoured fruit juice, and another for the camel, to Egypt, where Julius was riding to the top of the pyramid. For lunch today, there's cheese salad with celery and tomato, and an orange for pudding, if you want it. Where's Julius? Julius says he cannot have lunch with us today just at the moment, because he is cooling the hippopotamus in the Lombobombo River in Central Africa with buckets of muddy water. So Mr. Troutbeck took the tray with the cheese salad with celery and tomato and the orange for pudding to Africa, where Julius was pouring buckets of muddy water on the hippopotamus to keep it cool. Here are the grilled chops for supper. There are baby carrots, garden peas, and mashed potatoes to go with them, and an apple crumble for pudding. Where's Julius? Julius says he can't have supper with us just at the moment because he's throwing snowballs at the wolves from a sledge in which he's crossing the frozen waste of Novosty, which lies somewhere in Russia, where the winters are long. So Mrs. Troutbeck took the tray with the chop, the baby carrots, garden peas, and mashed potato to go with them, and an apple crumble for pudding, to Novosty, which lies somewhere in Russia, where Julius was throwing snowballs at the wolves. For breakfast today, we are having boiled eggs, toast and marmalade, and the tropical fruit juice that you wanted. Where's Julius? Julius says he can't have breakfast with us just at the moment because he's watching the sunrise from the top of the Changabenang Mountains, somewhere near Tibet. So Mr. Troutbeck took the tray with the boiled egg, toast and marmalade, and the tropical fruit juice to the top of the Changabenang Mountain, somewhere near Tibet, where Julius was watching the sunrise. For lunch today, we are having spaghetti bolognese with lettuce and cucumber. For pudding, there is plum duff. Where's Julius? Julius says he can't have lunch with us at the moment because he is on a raft which he has made from pieces of wood and old oil drums, and he is about to shoot the rapids on the Chico River, somewhere in Peru in South America. So Mrs. Troutbeck took the tray with the spaghetti bolognese, the lettuce and cucumber, and the plum duff to the Chico River in South America, where Julius was about to shoot the rapids on his raft. For supper today, there is Lancashire hot pot and steamed pudding for afterwards. Is Julius building a home out of old curtains, chairs, and a broom? Digging a hole to get to the other side of the world? Riding a camel up a pyramid? Cooling the hippos that stand in the Lombobombo River? Throwing snowballs at wolves in Novosty, where the winters are long? Is he climbing the Changabenang Mountains or shooting the rapids on the Chico River in South America? Perhaps he's helping the young owls to learn to fly in the trees at the end of the road, or tucking the polar bears in their beds somewhere in Antarctica. Betty, said Mr. Troutbeck, tonight Julius is having supper at home. The end. Good evening, my little friends. How are you doing tonight? Are you ready for bed? Are you ready for a bedtime story? This story is called Aldo by John Burningham. Once upon a time, I spend a lot of time on my own. Of course, I watch television, and they have lots of toys and books and things. Sometimes we go to the park, and occasionally we have a meal out, which is nice. But then I'm on my own again. I'm lucky though. I'm really very, very lucky, because I have a special friend, and his name is Aldo. Aldo is my friend only, and he's a secret. I know he will always come to me when things get really bad, like when they were horrid to me the other day. And I'm sure they went away because Aldo came. Aldo takes me to wonderful places. I'm not scared of anything when I'm with Aldo. I couldn't ever tell anybody about Aldo. They would never believe me, and they would only laugh. Sometimes I wish Aldo would help me, but he's only my special friend. Once I woke up in the night after a very bad dream, and Aldo was not there, and I thought Aldo would never come and see me ever again. But Aldo had only gone to get a story, which he read to me until I went to sleep. I wish Aldo could be with me all the time. Of course, there are some days when I forgot all about him. But I know that if anything gets really bad, Aldo will always be there. The end. Good evening, my little inquirers. Are you ready for bed? Are you all tucked up and warm? Are you ready for a bedtime story? Good. This story is called Would You Rather by John Burningham. As you listen, you'll find that this book has lots of questions asking you about what you would rather have or do. Why don't you answer those questions while you're listening? Would you rather your house was surrounded by water, snow, or jungle? Would you rather an elephant drank your bath water, an eagle stole your dinner, a pig tried on your clothes, or a hippo slept in your bed? Would you rather be covered in jam, soaked with water, or pulled through the mud by a dog? Would you rather have supper in a castle, breakfast in a balloon, or tea in the river? Would you rather be made to eat spider stew, slug dumplings, mashed worms, or drink snail squash? Would you rather jump in the nettles for £5, swallow a dead frog for £20, or sleep all night in a creepy house for £50? Would you rather be crushed by a snake, swallowed by a big fish, eaten by a crocodile, or sat on by a rhino? Would you rather your dad did a dance at your school, or your mum had a row in a cafe? Would you rather clash the cymbals, bang the drum, or blow the trumpet? Would you rather have a monkey to tickle, a bear to read to, a cat to box with, a dog to skate with, a pig to ride, or a goat to dance with? Would you rather be chased by a crab, a bull, a lion, or wolves? Or would you like to ride a bull into a supermarket? Would you rather be lost in the fog, at sea, in a desert, in a forest, or in a crowd? Would you rather help a fairy make magic, gnomes dig for treasure, an imp be naughty, a witch make a stew, or Santa Claus deliver presents? Would you rather live with a gerbil in a cage, a fish in a bowl, a parrot on a perch, a rabbit in a hutch, chickens in a coop, or a dog in a kennel? Or perhaps you would rather just go to sleep in your own bed? The end. Good evening, my little boys and girls. Good evening, grandchildren. Are you ready for bed? Are you ready for a bedtime story? This story is called Grandpa by John Burningham. Once upon a time, a little girl went to visit her grandpa. And how's my little girl? There would not be room for all the little seeds to grow. The worms go to heaven. One man went to mow a meadow. Little ducks, soup and sheep, sunshine in the trees. I didn't know Teddy was another little girl. Noah knew that the ark was not far from land when he saw the dove carrying the olive branch. Could we float away in this house, Grandpa? That was not a nice thing to say to Grandpa. This is lovely chocolate ice cream. It's not chocolate, it's strawberry. When we go to the beach, can we stay there forever? Yes, but we must get back for our tea at 4 o'clock. When I finish this lolly, can we get some more? I need the sticks to make things. When I was a boy, we used to roll our wooden hoops down the street after school. Were you once a baby as well, Grandpa? If I catch a fish, we can cook it for supper. What if you catch a whale, Grandpa? Henry, Florence and I used to come down that hill like little arrows. I remember one Christmas. Oh, you nearly slipped then, Grandpa. Careful. Grandpa can't come out to play today. Tomorrow, shall we go to Africa, and you can be the captain? The end. Good evening, my little monsters. Are you ready for bed? Are you ready for a bedtime story? Tonight's story is called Harquin by John Burningham. As you listen, I want you to tell me, what souvenir did Harquin take home after the hunters had gone? Once upon a time, one evening, Harquin's father called all the family together. I have reason to believe, he said, that one of you has been going out at night. Now I must warn you all again about going down to the valley. Remember what happened to your uncle, he added, pointing to the picture on the wall. He was caught by huntsmen. But Harquin would not listen. He used to run through the village, making sure that he was not seen. Then, one night, when Harquin was returning home, he was seen by the gamekeeper. Bang! Bang! Went the gamekeeper's gun. The shots missed, but gave Harquin a terrible fright. I didn't know that there were foxes living around here, thought the gamekeeper. I must tell the squire about this so that he can bring the hunt here. Harquin's parents heard the bangs and saw Harquin rushing home. I warned you, said his father. Now we'll all be killed when the huntsmen find us. Oh, whatever shall we do? Cried his mother. The next day, the gameskeeper went to see the squire and told him about the fox. Oh, good, said the squire. We'll take the hunt there on Sunday. We've never been up to the valley before. I didn't know there were foxes there. Harquin's parents feared the next hunt would come looking for them. It's best we just remain here in hopes that they won't discover our home, the parents told the little foxes. But Harquin was making his own plans. I must lead them away from here, he thought. Early on Sunday morning, Harquin left and went down to the valley. He hid in some undergrowth where he was able to watch the huntsmen gathering in the village square. As soon as the master blew his horn and the hunt began to move off, Harquin rushed ahead and waited. He waited until he was quite sure the huntsman had seen him. "We're not far behind him now," shouted the squire. Harquin ran for his life. "If only I can reach the marshes on time," he thought. At last he reached the edge of the marsh and sped along his secret path. But the hounds, the horses, the huntsman didn't know the way to cross. And splosh, splash, they all fell into the slimy mud. The squire, who had been thrown into the marsh head first, was furious. He shook with anger. "Call off the hounds," he bellowed. "We cannot hunt in this bog. The hounds can't find the scent, and we shall lose them." The squire was so angry he broke his riding crop. "Where's the gamekeeper fellow who suggested this hunt?" he roared. Harquin watched the hunt leave. He made quite sure they had gone before he ventured out, taking with him as a souvenir the squire's hat, which he found in the marsh. His family were very pleased to see him returning home safe and sound, and came out to meet him. And so the foxes were able to live in peace and wander freely in the valley, since nobody ever wanted to hunt there again. As for the gamekeeper, he no longer works for the squire, and now Harquin has children of his own, and they still live in the same home. And often, before they go to sleep, he tells them about the famous hunt. They all listen intently to his stories, except for one of his sons, who is bored. He wants to go beyond the valley. The end. This is a story about a magic bed. Once upon a time, there was a little boy called Georgie. "That bed is far too small for you now, Georgie. Why don't you and Frank go down to the shopping centre to buy a new one?" said Mum. On the way to the shopping centre, Georgie saw a shop that sold old beds. "Look, Frank," said Georgie. "Maybe they'll have a bed in there." They parked the car and went inside. "Do you have a bed that would be right for this boy?" said Frank. Beds? Yes, I have a little old bed somewhere," said the man. After some time, the man found the bed. The lady this bed came from said it was magic, he said, and that you can travel in it. Frank and Georgie bought the bed. They tied the bed to the top of the car and took it home. Georgie and Frank cleaned the bed all over. "Look, Georgie," said Frank, "there's some writing here. It's hard to see. What does it say?" "It says, 'In this bed you will travel far. First say your prayers and then say—'" I can't read this last word. It says, something, y, m, something, y. "What on earth have you got there?" said Georgie's granny. "Why did you get that awful old bed? Why didn't you go to the shopping centre and buy a new one?" "It's a lovely bed," said George, "and it's magic. I can travel in it." That evening, Georgie got ready for bed a little bit early. He brushed his teeth, washed his face, and got into bed. He said his prayers and then he tried to say the magic word. He tried to say, "Money, matey, mummy, murky, molly, Mandy, Millie, Messy, Minty, Mousy." But nothing happened, and Georgie went to sleep. "How did you get on last night in your magic bed? Did you go to the moon or to the Amazon?" said Daddy. "No, I didn't." The next night, Georgie went to bed early again and tried to guess the magic word. He must have got it right, because suddenly he was travelling way over the city in his bed. Georgie's bed landed in a field. Lots of gnomes and fairies arrived, and he read them a bedtime story. At breakfast the next day, Georgie decided not to tell anybody about where he had been during the night. And that evening Georgie was off again. This time he was travelling over the jungle. Georgie came across a young tiger that was lost. It had wandered away from its parents and didn't know how to get back home. He took the younger tiger back to its mother and father, who were very pleased that George had found the child. On one of his journeys, George found a chest full of treasure in a cave. But there were some pirates who were very angry because they thought the treasure was theirs, and they chased Georgie down the beach. He only just managed to escape in his bed. Some nights Georgie would go for a swim with the dolphins, which was why his bed was sometimes wet in the morning. Another night Georgie gave a lift to some geese that were very tired because they'd flown a long way. Then he had to race with some witches. Then came the day when they went away on the holidays. They waved goodbye to Georgie's granny and set off. While they were away, Georgie forgot all about his magic bed, and he had such a good time. And when the holiday ended and they all came home, his granny said something to him that shook him. "There's a lovely present for you, Georgie. It's in your room," said his granny. Georgie ran upstairs, rushed to his room, opened the door, and there in the corner was a brand new bed. "What have you done with my magic bed?" said Georgie. "Oh, that nasty old bed. We went down and we threw it out in the trash," said Granny. "Oh no!" Georgie raced out of the house, down the steps, along the road to the dump where the trash was. He just managed to get through the gates as the dump was closing. There on top of the rubbish skip was Georgie's magic bed. Georgie climbed up into the skip. He leaped into his bed, said the magic word, and the bed rose quickly into the sky. Now, if you lie very still in your bed and find your magic word, perhaps you could travel far away like Georgie. The end. Good evening, my little sleepy pants. Are you ready for bed? Are you ready for a bedtime story? This story is called Hushabye by John Burningham. As you listen, can you tell me where the goose has fallen asleep? There's a cat with a pram. She's had a hard day and now needs a place for her kittens to stay. Hushabye. The baby has been sailing a boat on the sea and now needs to sleep. Hushabye. There are 3 tired bears who are climbing the stairs. Hushabye. And a fish in the sea, it is weary, you see. Hushabye. And the man on the moon, he'll be asleep soon. Hushabye. The goose flying high was all day in the sky. Hushabye. There's a frog who's been hopping all day in the heat. He's tired and dry. Hushabye. Now we're tired. We need to lie down. It's time to sleep for the night. When morning comes, we will wake up again. Tomorrow will be a new day. The cat's found a place for her kittens to stay. Out of the wind and the snow. The baby's asleep in the boat that's afloat and is rocking on the watery waves. The 3 tired bears who are climbing the stairs are tucked up in their beds until morning. The fish in the deep have fallen asleep. The fish in the deep has fallen asleep with his head on a pillow of coral. The man on the moon will not wake up until noon. Then he'll shine up the moon for tomorrow. The goose is asleep now, asleep in the chair, and will fly off again when it's light. The frog did get wet, and now dreams in a net, and he'll hop off once more in the morning. You are tucked up in bed. Your toes are all warm. You're out of the wind and the rain. Your head's on the pillow. You'll soon be asleep. Hushabye, Hushabye, hush. The end.